very much. When I get up to a place like this, somebody said, we're going to talk about being a test pilot. And I can tell you that's the most boring subject you can bring up. Because all you do is bore holes in the skies for hours after hours. So I decided I would talk about how I got into aviation. And the year was 1927. My dad had a room where none of the kids were allowed in the house, but on this night, we were allowed to go into the room and listen to the evening news on radio station WTAM. And what they were doing, they were giving reports from the ships at sea who thought they had seen Lindbergh or had heard the airplane. And when they would announce that, my dad would put a pin in the chart for that longitude and latitude. And we got all the way to Ireland. And somebody had spotted the airplane in Ireland, put the pin in there, and my dad says, well, he's made it now, it's not a problem. I can tell you from Ireland to Paris is a long way. And I've flown in the jet many times, but in his 80-mile-an-hour airplane, it was a long way. So anyway, my brother and I, we were a year and a half apart, decided that night, I was 7 years old by the way, that we were going to get into flying. So we did. And the first phase of our getting into flying was to build model airplanes. And they came up with a notice in Cleveland they were going to have an indoor model airplane contest. They called it an endurance contest. And we built a kit from, I believe it was a Cleveland model company, and got it all finished, and went down and registered, got into the meet, tables like this, you know, one airplane on each table, and the guy on the next table said, boys, what do you got for rubber power in there? We said, rubber bands. He said, that won't work. He said, let me show you what to do, and he pulled a can he had there open, glycerin in the can, and I think it was 16-inch square rubber material that just rolls and rolls of it. And he started out and put it in our model. We said, hey, that prop's 3 feet in front of the model. He says, that's where you want it to be. We said, how are we ever going to wind that up? He says, you can use my egg beater. And he showed us how to do it, you know, and we wound it up and got it all ready for the flight. And he pretty much supervised us because we were just kids, you know, we didn't know anything about this at all. And then they had a drawing for your number that you would be allowed to launch your airplane. And so our number came up and it was 20 or something down the line. My brother launched the airplane. This is in the Cleveland Auditorium. And it did this lazy circle around, climbed up to almost to the ceiling. And the announcer saying, this is marvelous, that model has almost got to the ceiling. Unfortunately, it leveled off. We ran out of power and it went into a glide. And they were timing this whole flight, you know. There was one cable hanging down from the roof for the microphone. And on the third circle, our airplane hit the cable and stuck right there because it cut into the wing. And every day of the two-day meet, the next day they said, well, the Carson model is still up there. And then on the last day of the meet in the Cleveland paper, it said, Carson model finally lands. Everybody down is shaking it loose, so that was our popularity in models. Well, then our next effort was to, you know, we want to learn to fly. So how are you going to learn to fly? Well, it seemed pretty simple to us. We built a model airplane, we just built a glider. So there's a place in town called Logan Aviation, and we went into Cleveland, which was 27 miles. And Mr. Logan immediately saw two kids come in and he said, kids, don't touch anything. And so we just looking around at the counters, you know, and he had all these instruments. They're all World War I surplus. And we did that 2 or 3 trips, and by the 3rd trip, Mr. Logan says, if you want to go out in the warehouse, I'll let you go. So we go out there, and here's Curtis Jennings in the crate, brand new. I think they were $300. And on the back wall of the building, stacked about 30 high, were OX5 engines. 75 bucks a piece, brand spanking new. Or 75 bucks then was quite a bit of money, but anyway, we asked Mr. Logan if he had plans for a glider. He said yes. We said how much? He said $25. So immediately we went into full power to locate $25, and we had kind of a thing going. We made maple syrup, we had chickens, we sold eggs, delivered 12 cents a dozen, and we finally accumulated the $25. So we went down and Mr. Logan said, we have the $25, where's the plans? And he brought them out, and they were in a tube 4 feet long, 4 inches in diameter, all sealed up. So we paid them and took the plans and went home. Well, that night at dinner, my dad says, did you boys spend some money today? And we said, yes. What'd you spend it for? And we said, plans for a glider. He says, have you looked at them? We said, no. He said, bring them in here. So he opened the plans up. And my older brother is 10 years older than me. And Dad were looking at the plans and they started to laugh. The plans were in German and metric. We didn't know German, and we sure as heck had never heard of a metric system. So my father said, well then, my suggestion is you take them down to the German Lutheran church in town and talk to Pastor Bishop and see if he could find somebody in his church who might be willing to interpret the German into English. So we did, went down to Pastor Bishop, and small town, you didn't get away with almost anything. And he said, well, leave the plans with me and I'll see what I can do. So about a month later, he called up and he says, the plans are ready for you. We go down and open the plans up. Not only had the German been converted to English, but the metric was now also an English major. So we were off and running. 2 years later, we had the glider finished. And I was 10 years old when we started the glider. This is a model of the glider. We flew, what was it? 2,642 flights on the glider.
I'll hold it up.
During that period.
I'll hold it up.
Why did you launch it?
Yeah, how'd you launch?
Well, I'll get to that in just a second.
Rubber band.
See, that's the logical answer, because the Germans had launched their gliders with bungee cords. And they launched them off of hills. And we didn't have hills, and we sure as heck didn't have bungee cord. So when we got the glider finished, the problem came, where are you going to fly? Well, now this is the height of the Depression. There was an airport in our local community called Kenneth Cole Airport, and they'd gone belly up. And we happened to know the real estate guy that owned the airport. So my brother and I went over to his house and we said, we'd like to get the airport to fly our glider on. And he said, well, he says, you can't sign a lease, you'll have to get your dad to sign the lease. And you got to come up with the money. So we said, fine, and we were talking now, 1 year, if we could get 25 bucks together, maybe he'd let us have it for a year. So the evening came, my dad was in the real estate office, and the fellow's name was Horatio Ford. Mr. Ford says to my dad, says, you have any objection to signing the lease? And my dad says, no. And he said, well now boys, have you got the money? And we said, yeah, we got $25. He said, that's enough. We were kind of taken back because we had heard Dad and Mr. Ford talking about a 5-year lease. We had $25, and we got the field for 5 years for $25. But there was a catch. It had an 80 by 160 foot hangar that needed to be re-roofed. And that was in the deal. We would agree to re-roof the hangar and make some structural repairs in the hangar. So when we got the field, put the glider out there,